All right, time to read well, I didn't make this. I mean, I made the past one right there, but I used Gemini to make all these rhyme. I don't know how long. It's longer than my last one, so I can say that. So let's get at it without further ado. If you can't handle repetition, you can't handle business. If you can't handle the process, you can't handle the riches. If you can't handle your own mind, you can't handle life. If you can't handle the past, you can't handle the light. If you can't handle the silence, you can't handle the weight. If you can't handle the guidance, you can't handle being great. If you can't handle the fatigue, you can't handle the drill. If you can't handle seeing it through, you can't handle the skill. If you can't handle the pressure, you can't handle the lead. If you can't handle the effort, you can't handle the seed. If you can't handle limits, you can't handle when brim hits. If you um, if you can't handle limits, you can't handle when brim hits. If you can't handle the volume, you can't handle the grim bits. If you can't handle the fear, you can't handle the start. If you can't handle the mirror, you can't handle the heart. If you can't handle the new, you can't handle ambition. If you can't handle the change, you can't handle the vision. If you can't handle curiosity, you can't handle the quest. If you can't handle the better, you can't handle the best. If you can't handle the humility, you can't handle the fame. If you can't handle the ego, you can't handle the game. If you can't handle the simple, you can't handle the art. If you can't handle the thinking, you can't handle your part. If you can't handle the pain, you can't handle the rise. If you can't handle the struggle, you can't handle the prize. If you can't handle the advice, you can't handle the growth. If you can't handle the sacrifice, you can't handle the oath. If you can't handle the truth, you can't handle success. If you can't handle reality, you'll end in a mess. If you can't handle the zone, you can't handle the heat. If you can't handle being alone, you can't handle the street. If you can't handle commitment, you can't handle the bond. If you can't handle the focus, you'll never reach beyond. If you can't handle the planning, you can't handle the trust. If you can't handle I can, you can't handle I must. If you can't handle the boredom, you can't handle the way. If you can't handle the forum, you can't handle the day. Oh, yeah, that's pretty good. AI comes with rhymes and some of its own. If you can't handle initiative, you can't handle the free. If you can't handle the work, you'll just never be. If you can't handle the learning, you can't handle the self. If you can't handle the yearning, you'll stay on the shelf. If you can't handle the helping, you can't handle the friend. If you can't handle the giving, you'll break in the end. If you can't handle the tools, you can't handle the sense. If you can't handle intuition, you have no defense. If you can't handle the picking, you can't handle the choice. If you can't handle opinion, you have no voice. If you can't handle the risk, you can't handle the result. If you can't handle the perspective, you'll stay an adult. If you can't handle the clock, you can't handle your prime. If you can't handle the time, you can't handle the sublime. If you can't handle the mission, you can't handle the precision. If you can't handle the decision, you can't handle the provision. 4 more. If you can't handle the gratitude, you can't handle the magnitude. If you can't handle the gratitude, you can't handle the attitude. If you can't handle the direction, you're walking in blind. If you can't handle the deep, you can't handle the mind. Boom. That's a good book. I made most of that, but AI just made it rhyme and such. Yeah, I'll be reading more books for me, and I don't know,